Hi, I'm Holly and I'm the co-chair of C2C, which is Children in Care Council Chat to Change. Watch your words have always been an important thing within children in care or care experienced children. However, during COVID, the lockdown, when we first went into lockdown, it was children who were vulnerable had to go into school, whilst everyone else got to learn from home, and this is where it really started. Mainly at the professionals to change the language around children in Suffolk. We're hoping that it will be more inclusive, that you can bring up in a day-to-day conversation with a friend so you're not excluded, and that it narrows the gap between being a child who is care experienced and a child who isn't care experienced. To change the language they're using, to look at the words and try and encourage and promote other people to do the same. The word vulnerable is used to do with every single child who is care experienced. It's also not to do with care in a way, but it's used for anyone, whatever your age is, you can be vulnerable. I personally see it as an umbrella term that is used to describe anyone and everyone, no matter the differences within situations, and it's easier to label everyone as vulnerable than having to come up with distinct differences for each individual. Like it changed so it's more personalised to the child, a person who may need extra support. So it's more about the care experienced young person and not just an overall, because everyone's different, so it's not fair to class everyone as the same.
So placement for social services and the corporate parenting board is what they would class as where a child or a looked after child is placed. But obviously a lot of people who are in care or foster care children would class it more as either their home or where their home housing is. You know, it becomes a very clinical way of looking at things and perspective on how they state things like that, and obviously we want to try and give it as normal a outlook as possible for the young people who are in care. You know, I've been in both foster care and in a children's home, and yeah, obviously when you say that you're in either foster care or a children's home, you already get a lot of questions as it is. So you know, trying to be a little bit more normal about the situation makes it a bit better. You know, it's down to that conversation you're having with a young person about where they're staying and what they're doing. Again, you know, it's staying. You know, you're not where. You know, how's your placement going? It sounds a little bit strange. So it needs to be something that it's more integrated into the paperwork. It's more integrated into the conversation with young people and with other professionals. It's, you know, again, it needs to be one of those terms that's phased out a little bit and replaced and made a little bit more up to date.
Well, when in foster care, we referred to contact mainly as going to visit friends and family. So if I was going to have contact with my mum, because I wouldn't live with my mum as a home, I would be going on maybe a train or something, or my mum would be coming to me, and there'd be a certain amount of time, a determined amount of time where I would have contact with my mum. Contact is a very sort of subject word for something that's just going to see a family member. You wouldn't have contact with your grandparents if you're just going around your grandparents for the weekend. You wouldn't have contact with your friends if you're going out to meet your mates. And it's a very uncomfortable word for kids in care when they're just trying to see their actual real family. I myself have gone back to living with my parents, and I was having a conversation with them the other day where I was talking about contact just from when we'd gone to the cinema, And it was really weird to me to describe seeing my family, my parents, my mum and my little sisters with contact. It is such a weird word for me to use in my perspective now. Back when I was in care, it was just my day to day. It'd be like, oh, I'm going on contact this weekend, or I'm going to contact on a train or something like that. And when I looked back on it in my perspective now that I'm out of care, it was so peculiar to me how I saw that as normal. It's one of those things that it was like I just adapted to it and just never questioned it.
Pathway plan is when a person in care sets up a plan for aspirations and dreams or careers. Some people may refer it as also a safety plan or a crisis plan, and therefore more mental health or more sugarcoat vulnerable scenarios. And pathway plan, that can mean absolutely anything, and for me, it doesn't really make sense to call it a pathway. Future plan, because it's more about what's happening in the future. It will make especially younger children more comfortable, I think, and also teenagers a bit more comfortable, purely because it's more like, yeah, I actually have a future in something, and not so, oh, I'm a person in care, I don't have a future. It's just like an indirect reassurance that they do have a future despite being in care.